phone. And so that didn't
Sexy.
occur to me. I need to turn on Do Not Disturb or something.
Yeah, probably do that.
Give me a second.
Okie dokie. Well, on that note, welcome to everyone in YouTube land to the first episode of, or at least episode 0 of Progbox. So, my name is Nick.
I'm James. And I'm Derek.
And we are your hosts for the episode 0 of Progbox. Basically, this is just a semi-casual podcast just about progressive rock in general. It's something we're really interested in.
I've been interested in it for a long time.
We've been interested in it for a very, very long time. Which segues into the fact that I'll just introduce my experience with progressive rock. I've basically been into prog since I'd say around 2010 when I was in high school. And ironically, I started with a band you wouldn't even expect. I started with Electric Light Orchestra way back in the day. But then it blossomed from Electric Light Orchestra right into Kansas, right into Pink Floyd, right into the rest, basically. I can actually chronicle like the timeline of me getting into all these albums. But I'll just say off the bat, I'm hardline Genesis fanboy as well as Derek in this podcast, which might prove to be a little bit biased. Yeah, it might prove to be a little bit biased. So we'll probably try and keep the fanboyism to a minimum. I know James is...
Even though it's kind of inevitable.
Yeah, it's kind of a little bit inevitable, but yeah, James is not a Genesis fanboy. He will be the voice of reason in this.
I am a Genesis fanboy in the making.
Well,
I'm starting to get into Selling England and go down that rabbit hole of Genesis. James, how did you get into prog? See, I'm the young one out of the group, and I heard In the Court about 2 years ago in my sophomore year of high school. And then from there, I got into King Crimson, and from there, I got into all the other bands. Except for Genesis, apparently.
A lot of people don't really like Genesis, from what I've seen.
I mean, we'll probably elaborate it on why we think that is more like Genesis episodes, but I think it's because of how kind of out there and extravagant they are.
Yeah, and I guess we'll go more into that if we ever do So I think we're starting with Selling England is going to be the first Progbox episode that we decide to talk about.
That's going to go over first Genesis, because In the Court's going to be our first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. By the way, In the Court will be recorded very soon. We will be recording that around Tuesday the when. It should be uploaded around that same time. But today's the 12th of August, the year of our Lord 2017, and we should have that out by the 15th. So hopefully, so that will be pretty good. We have lots to discuss about that album. It's basically the prog album. So
yeah, everybody does. It's like the kind of, other than Pink Floyd, it's like your standard like stock prog.
Well, we can go into more on like, it's basic, we could say like it started prog as we know it today, back in 1969.
Speaking of prog, I've been into prog since I'd say my freshman year of high school. I've started with your typical bands like Rush, Pink Floyd, kind of slowly got more and more into it as I went into college, got more into more like your King Crimson, your Genesis, your more obscure stuff.
Oh, we know a dude that's very into very much obscure prog who can enlighten us on these.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Prog
in every different language.
We will be doing an episode on Diabolus. To our listeners who have even heard of Diabolus, good job. You've already done your homework, so that when the episode does arrive, you can appreciate it a little bit more. But
there's going to be that one fan out there that does know Diabolus.
The one Diabolus fan.
Mind blown that someone's talking about it.
I believe, just because, of YouTube, I think having a whole video on like Diabolus would like blow a lot of people's minds who think it's like very niche and very obscure. And it's like, oh, you have a couple guys talking about it,
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, it's gonna be pretty interesting because, and the other thing I think with this show is we're gonna be focusing more on the '70s progressive rock. But we won't just focus on the big ones. You know, we'll cover Genesis, King Crimson, yes. We'll also cover a lot of other maybe not overlooked, but like bands that don't get a lot of talk about. I want to say it's like Gentle Giant, Jethro Tull, and even more to an extent like a few other not so well known like
Like Soft
PFM,
Machine.
yeah, Soft Machine, PFM. We're gonna try and tackle all of that and give our own opinions, which would segue into how we really structure this podcast. It's going to be more structured as a debate, since we do know each other. That's what we usually do. We just talk about albums, and it's going to be structured more like a debate. It's really going to be more opinion based, but it will be very open. We do have a slew of guests coming in that will give their own opinions. We do have a couple special guests lined up that will prove to be very interesting when we're talking about specific albums. If you're getting my drift.
Especially people who are into said albums.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Or into said bands.
Oh,
and
totally.
I think they are the greatest thing to grace the earth.
That is very true. It's almost like music opinions are like, you know, subjective or something, that everyone has a different opinion.
Exactly.
It's the two rules of music. It's subjective, and saying the worst song on an album doesn't mean it's bad.
That is true. But we will definitely dive more into this as it comes along. But yep, that's basically the gist of our show. And does anyone have any like closing words they like to say, maybe, that I haven't touched upon?
This is a show.
Apparently, yeah. Show. Well, that's about it, I guess. This is just episode 0. No actual discussion here. Just a little brief introduction into what we do. So, guess catch you all later.
All your opinions are wrong, and I hate all of you. Bye.